Hello dear chess friends, my name is Marko Makaj. I am FIDE master from Croatia and I record this video for great chess teaching site Remote Chess Academy. The topic for our today video will be the chess traps. How to try to avoid get in the serial trouble by getting in a trap from the opponent. Now, before we go any further, I would like to explain you that basically chess traps are somehow in most of the cases connected with the sacrifices from the one or the other side. With the sacrifice, the opponent wants to get significant advantage over you by getting in his trap. For instance, and for our first example, I would like to show you this particular position. Now, the last move from black was knight b to d7. We can even go back one move, and the last move from white was bishop to g5. This is very well known opening, the Queen's Gambit declined, where white wants to attack this pawn on d5, and bishop g5 is really connected with this pin. Knight on f6 is pinned with the queen on d8, and because of that white makes some kind of the pressure against the d5 pawn. Now, if black play bishop to e7, he can get rid of this pin, and basically white will get in the position after e3, knight f3, trying to develop all of the pieces and playing for the slight edge. Now, with knight b to d7, black set up the chess trap. So now he wants to trap white with very clever idea. So it looks like now that black with knight b to d7 allow white to take the pawn on d5, because after e5, white has this extra option taking on d5, because now the knight is on d7 and queen doesn't protect the pawn on d5, and it looks like that white is now almost winning, because if black play now something like c6, white can take on f6, and then basically he is a clear pawn up for nothing. So it's very hard for black to continue, and it looks like white is on a very huge advantage there. But the fact and the reality is somehow different, and with knight b7 black introduced very nice trap. He take the knight on d5 and somehow sacrifice the queen, but after white take the queen on d8, bishop b4 really is the winning move now for black, because he's getting the check, and there is no way for white to dealing with the check if he doesn't play queen to d2. But after bishop takes on d2 and king take on d2, black king take on d8, and now you can see that black has 3 against 2 pieces, and reality is that black get white in the trap and get his piece for a 2 pawn. So this is first very nice example how black with clever play can play even in the Queen's Gambit declined. Now, it's very interesting to see that here black introduced this trap with very natural play, and this is the second thing that is important. So when someone play for the trap, he need to play very solidly, because the trap needs to be making very unclear for the opponent, and if you dealing with the trap, try to think twice before you take the pawn, for instance here on d5. Now on the table I set the second very nice chess trap. Once again the star is black side, and in this position you will recognize it. It's from the Spanish or Rui Lopez game, here black played the move knight to e7. And on the first look, it looks like he overlooked the pawn on e5, because if we go once again, move back, we can see that this knight in reality protects the pawn on e5. Now, after knight to e7, white can take the pawn on e5. But is this good, and is this a trap? We'll see in a couple of seconds. So, yes, it is a trap, and with knight to e5, white can get in really big trouble, because now he will lose a piece. Why? Because first of all, black has this extraordinary move c6, which doesn't allow white pieces to escape. Very important thing is here to see that this square is really weak for white, and from this square, queen to a5, white will make very big pressure over the fifth rank, and with check take one of two white pieces. So it means that white needs to be here very careful and spot this before he take the pawn on e5. So when you're dealing with a chess trap, you need to first of all see what black's idea is. So before you take on e5, you want to see how white can expose this move knight to e5, and here is perfect way how you can escape from this trap by moving first probably the knight to c3, or even to play something like castle on the king side, because after this there will be no way for black to get the check on a5. For instance, if we go here and castle on the king side, black will be in a position where he will need to play knight to g6 and protect the pawn on e5, because if he now forces something else, then white will be able to take on e5 and take a clear pawn. So before you get into trap, try to think about it, try to see what your opponent is trying to do, and play against the idea of the opponent. For sure, if you don't see exactly what will happen, that means that this idea can be really deep, or it's really the blunder, and at some stage you really need to take over, especially the pawn at some situations. Now, try to go here and see what happens after knight to e5. Now, as we mentioned, queen a5 is here very important move, and something else here is also important, that those pieces are now without the coordination, because the knight is on e5 and is very exposed on the fifth rank of the opponent, and this bishop on b5 as well. And with c6 move, now you can see that black outplay white, get him in a trap, and the reality is that black is here winning. Here white can play bishop a4 or bishop c4. The outcome will be slightly different because he will lose the knight or the bishop, but the result will be the same. And we can see that after, okay, as we mentioned, we can go to a4, and after queen came to a5 with check, you can see that the bishop or the knight are lost. Knight c3 will save the bishop, but will lose the knight on e5, or if somehow white wants to play maybe even bishop to d2, now black can even try to take the bishop or the knight, is his own possibility, so he can decide which piece he can get. Obviously it's lost position for white, because is the clear piece for black in this specific position. And the second thing that here also white can try to do is bishop to c4, where once again after queen check the king on a5, and there is no way for white to protect this knight on e5, and for instance knight c3, queen to a5, and black is completely winning here, getting the piece for just a pawn. I think that there is no need for white to continue this fight, and it's game over in 7 moves. So you can see how chess trap can be very, very nice for the side who set the trap. And when you play against the trap, try first to very, very deeply see what the opponent idea is. And if needed, you can even think twice before you take, for instance, the pawn on e5, as white can do here. And now, for the third example, I would like to show you one great creative chess trap and try to show you how to avoid those kind of the chess traps in the future. So the game can start with e4, e5, knight f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, d6, very standard way of playing, where both of the sides develop the pieces and try to play their own games. Knight c3 and bishop g4, where black wants to get some kind of the pin over this light diagonal h5 to d1. Now white can play h3 and black play bishop to h5, and it looks like that it's nothing wrong with black play. He just would like to continue with this pin on this long diagonal, where white needs to show what his attention is. If nothing else, black can even try to play knight d4 and start to make really pressure on the knight on f3. And now this is one of the greatest example of chess traps with very unpleasant results for the side who getting into this trap. And it's the knight takes on e5 move, which will allow black to take the whole queen on d1. So it looks like the white offers black a queen. And now what black needs to decide is whenever he would like to take the queen or not. And this is one of the clear example of the chess traps. So you need to think twice before you take the queen on d1, because one and very obvious reason here, which is bishop to f7, very exact way, and after king goes to e7, knight to d5, mate. This is the great legal mate example where white sacrifice a queen and trap black by even mate him in 2 moves. So let's go back until the move knight to e5. When you find yourself in a game and the opponent sacrifice a pawn, you need to double check the solutions and see if there is any way how the opponents can trap you. If he sacrifices a piece, then you maybe sometimes need to calculate even 3 times, because here white doesn't sacrifice a pawn and the piece. In reality, he here sacrifice a queen. So that means that there needs to be something wrong. If your opponent is not really the worst opponent in the world, he will not offer you the queen. So basically here you need to decide whenever you want to take this queen if you are black, or you need to play something else. And because of this mate on f7, you need to see that after bishop f7 and knight d5, this is in the reality mate. You doesn't want to take this queen on d1, but for instance the knight on e5. And this is the way how you can handle with the chess traps. So you need to be very, very cautious after you see that the opponent wants to sacrifice something to you, because in 90% of the time this will be a chess trap. And in those situations you want to make very, very exact, I believe, things in order not to lose the game. Like here, you can lose if you take the queen on d1. So what I want to show you, or what I want to teach you, is that chess traps are in the reality mostly the situations related with some kind of the sacrifices. Today you can see the sacrifice of the pawn or the piece, or even the sacrifice of the queen on d1. Now, when your opponent sacrifices a pawn or a piece, first you need to ask yourself why opponent makes this last move. What is his idea? Is this a trap or a blunder? After that, calculate moves to move and try to see which is this, or what is this. Is this a trap or a blunder? And at the end, maybe the most exact way is that you need to believe in yourself. And if you can't see the trap, then don't be afraid. Take the sacrifice and play for a win.